I'm the Bunnyman.
And I'm Crazy Susie.
And we are in the Eyes of Terror.
Welcome back for another bloody, not so Valentine edition.
Yes, unfortunately, we are doing a late... We're going to probably... blah, a double release because both of us have been sick. And it just happened out of nowhere.
Yeah, unfortunately, our Valentine's was a not so fun Valentine. But anyway.
So if I sound a little bit congestion-y...
It's not a word. Congested?
Yeah. It's because I'm still pretty much sick. So
you're sicky poo. I'm
sicky poo, Randy. Plus I'm drinking, so... And I've heard a lot of podcasts say, hey, what are you drinking? So I am drinking vodka, Kahlua, and soy chocolate milk. What are you drinking?
I'm just having alkalized water.
Ooh, you're hardcore.
I know. I mean, I could have a Jaeger bomb, but I forgot the Red Bull.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's shameful.
So, let's get into it.
It's shameful when you forget the Red Bull. Man.
We really don't drink a lot of energy drinks. At least, I used to drink a lot. No, I don't. I don't drink any anymore.
Yeah. I guess all those talkings, too, I had to worked.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're on number 3 in the countdown, and we are doing A Bucket of Blood.
This is 1959.
As our daughter would say, it's not really a bucket, Mom. It's more like a saucepan.
Yes.
And this film is 1 hour and 6 minutes long. IMDb gives it a whopping 6.8 out of 10. That's pretty doggone high.
Mm-hmm.
And originally it was a black and white film. And the copy we watched was pretty much black and white.
Yeah, I didn't know if they... I don't think they colorized it.
I think they did like the ultra color... Which really is still kind of black and white with splashes of color.
Okay, but here's my thing.
That's my understanding anyway. I could be wrong.
But here's my thing. If the film is meant to be black and white, I don't want a recolorization of it.
Well, you know, some people like to...
I like original film. I like the original feel. So.
Okay. The director was Roger Corman. The writer is Charles B. Griffith. And the cast are as follows. David Miller plays...
Dick.
I'm sorry. Dick Miller plays Walter Paisley.
And Dick Miller is known as the guy who plays the janitor. The other guy. You've seen him in other movies. You just don't know his name.
Right. He's in a ton of movies. A ton of slasher films.
Yeah, he played the janitor in Chopping Mall, for instance.
Yeah.
Several other movies. But, you know, he's usually older.
If you look up his name, and you'll say, oh, that guy!
But this is a young version, and he is, I have to say, he's very handsome. He was a very handsome man when he was young. He's still handsome for an old man, but I think he's in his 80s now.
Yeah, he's up there. Barbara Morse plays Carla. Anthony Carbone plays Leonard DeSantis. Julian Burton plays Maxwell H. Brock. Ed Nelson plays Art Lorox. John Brinkley plays Will. Judy Bamber plays Alice. John Herman Shaner plays Oscar. And the full list can be seen on IMDb. The estimated budget for this film is $50,000. In 1959, that's a big chunk of change.
Did they ever say how much they got in the return of that movie?
I'll have to do some more research to find that, because they don't always mention that.
I think this is public domain now, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
So, how did we come across this film?
How did we come across this film? Oh, goodness. This is another one of those...
I think we were at Big Lots, wasn't it? And I have this horrible, horrible tendency.
This is another one of those, we found it in a bucket.
Yeah. So,
finds.
A little bit about me. I have this horrible, horrible tendency to, whenever we go to a store, I find not the good movies. I go to the bucket movies. And I go, no, and try to find the worst movies for some reason.
Yeah. You know when they have these great big bins of movies that are like $2 and $3 that you know have to be atrocious because there's no reason for them to sell them that cheaply. And he digs through them and goes, no, I know who that is. Nope, that looks familiar. Nope. Oh, this looks awful. We'll take a look at that. This looks awful. We'll get that. And he brings them home, and he forces me to watch them.
It's only love. It's only love.
And he only likes the ones that I can only sit through for 5 minutes. And then he forces me to watch them over and over again until I start to like them. It's like his own form of water torture, but without the water.
And that's how we become a podcast.
So, yes, A Bucket of Blood was born from that. But we actually kindly liked it after the first watching, and there really is no bucket in it.
No.
There is a saucepan, and there is blood in the saucepan. Well, it's more like a quart pan. Not a sauce size, but, you know.
Yeah.
There's no bucket, actually, but that's what they call it, Bucket of Blood. Anyway, it is a comedy crime horror film.
I've seen several places say it's a comedy, and it's a dark humor film, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's a comedy. It has a lot of dark overtones.
It does. Yeah. So the storyline is Walter Paisley, a nerdy busboy at a bohemian cafe, is jealous of the talent of its various artistic regulars, but after accidentally killing his landlady's cat and covering the body in plaster to hide the evidence, he is acclaimed as a brilliant sculptor. But his newfound friends want to see more of his work. So because he has no talent, he is forced to kill again. Poor Walter Paisley.
Mm-hmm. It's an hour and 6 minutes long.
It is.
It's one of their. It seems like because February is such a short month, we have chosen short movies completely on accident.
We've recorded all of these, and Bunny Man's like, these aren't very long podcasts. I was like, none of these films are very long. I didn't choose short films intentionally. It's just happened to work out that way. But anyway. So some of the really interesting taglines in this film is Roger Corman's cult classic is bloody good fun. You'll be sick from laughing. Will you join the Human Museum? A new dimension in horror. Inside every artist lurks a madman. I like that one. Mm-hmm. Okie dokie, let's get started.
Yeah, let's get into the movie. Alright, so it opens up on a beatnik poem slam. A slam poem, I guess. Before it was slam poetry. It's still pretty awful.
Yeah.
So, beatniks were I want to say the 1950 original emos.
Yeah.
And so they all sort of congregate into this one, it's called the Yellow Door Cafe. Mm-hmm. They all chill in this Yellow Door Cafe. And they're all like dressed in various clothing one guy's wearing like a Civil War hat, and another's like wearing a raccoon hat or something like that. And then but there's like one guy, and he starts out the movie, and you just hear him, and it's just, basically his poem is just word salad at this point. And it's so hard to understand what he's going, and everybody's like, oh yeah, it's the most powerful poem we've ever heard. And he has this attitude of, I never write down my stuff because, words
should never be repeated.
Yeah. So that gives you sort of like the feel of this place. And there's bongos in the background too, so.
Yeah. And as he's quoting the words, there's a guy who's playing the saxophone.
Yeah.
So it's very rhythmic. Everything's, got that ambiance going on.
Although they did go up, they did close up on him, and you can tell that is the fakest beard they could find.
Did they do a pube collection too?
They did. They did.
Go shave a goat or something and put his beard.
And it looked like a boy who hit puberty and he's just like, I'm just gonna let it grow. It's all patchy and it's not beardish.
Funny.
And he is the head guy. So Walter Paisley, he's going through and collecting everybody's stuff. He's a dishwasher man. And
he's like a busboy.
Yeah. And they're like, he was basically, to put it lightly, jerking off the lead guy. Right. Because he wants to be part of that clique.
Yeah, Walter knows everybody, and everybody knows him by name. So Walter's walking through the crowd and collecting mugs and talking to everybody. And they ask him if he's a painter. And he claims to be working on a project. And he says, I'll show you soon what my project's about. And so Walter's boss comes up to him and says, Walter, no, you put in a good day's work. Why don't you go on home? Because the way Walter's boss looks at it is, he's really being more of a nuisance than he is being a help.
Yeah, because he's always sort of like, he's not doing his job. He's not. Yeah,
He's aggravating the customers more than doing his job.
I'm not saying he's aggravating the customers as much as just he's trying to be an artist that he's not.
Right. He's there more for the social scene than to actually do his job.
Well, I think he's more envious. He's not that person that they are. Mm-hmm. He's not a creative person.
So his boss sends him home, and on his way home, he's going up to his apartment, and his neighbor is concerned and asked him if he's been eating. No,
it's his landlady.
Well, she's also his neighbor. His landlady / neighbor is concerned and asks him if he has been eating well enough, and she offers to fix him some soup. Well, he says no thanks. He's going to fix himself something to eat, that he has some things he needs to work on. And she says, if you see my cat Frankie, let me know. He's ran off again. And she has him some nice halibut. And he asked, you think the cat will understand if I tell it that you got it some nice halibut?
Well, I mean, and he says it really like angrily. And she just seems like this nice older lady who's just like...
Yeah, well, he's like, it's a cat.
Yeah,
you think it'll comprehend if I say, "Hey, Frankie, your owner, she bought you some nice halibut."
Well, I don't think it was her. She owned the cat. I think it was just like an alley cat, like a cat that just chilled out in that area.
Yeah. But he was really like rudely sarcastic about it.
But I mean, you got to think that they weren't. He just basically got sent home early. Mm-hmm. And he got rejected by the clique that he's trying to be a part of. Because they're sort of slyly making fun of him. Like, they looked at him as a pet, not as a person. And I think it's the best way to say. They looked at him sympathetically.
Well, she really doesn't respond. She just kind of looks at him funny, like, how dare you say something like that? Well, I think he takes that as maybe I shouldn't have said that. And so he decides that he'll just let her know, okay, well, if I see him, I'll send him your way. So he goes inside and he starts... Okay.
Sorry about that. I had just got done with a coughing fit for some weird reason.
So,
So, the landlady...
Yeah, so... The landlady asked Walter if he sees Frankie, her cat, to let him know that she has a nice piece of halibut for him. He asked if the cat would understand because it's only just a cat. She looks at him and was like, almost as if to say, I can't believe you said something like that. And Walter takes this as a sign, maybe I should just drop that. And he says, if I see Frankie, I'll send him your way.
Yeah, like he snapped out of this, like, jerk mode.
Right. The fit of sarcasm he was having, laying on thick, he kind of
Well, because,
quit.
this clique that he's trying to be with is just, that's all they are, is just sarcasm. And
right. Being rude for the sake of being rude. So he goes into his apartment, puts on some soup, and starts working with the clay.
Yeah, he just has a random block of clay.
It's a massive block of clay. It's like the size of a suitcase.
Well, when I went to art school, no, it's just a standard block of clay. But that standard block of clay when I was in art school was $25.
But it was massive. It was a massive block
Yeah,
of clay.
well, I mean, when you throw pots and do sculpturing, it's not going to be small. I mean, you need a lot of clay. Mm-hmm. So back then, maybe $15, $20. I mean, I don't know how much it would cost. Mm-hmm. But I mean, still, it was just like chilling in the back there.
Yeah, he had it sitting on the table, and he just started, working with a bit of clay while his soup was heating up. So
then he tried the hardest thing to do. People. People are the hardest thing to do in anything.
Right.
Drawing, painting, you name it.
Well, he starts working with his clay, and he hears Frankie meow. He just tries to figure out where he is, and it sounds like he's in the wall. Just as he figures out where Frankie is, he hears his soup boil over. So he throws the pot into the sink. He realizes that Frankie is stuck in the wall, so he decides he's going to try to get him out. So he takes a knife and he stabs it into the wall. Well, then he doesn't hear Frankie meowing anymore.
Yeah, he stabs Frankie.
He stabbed the knife into the cat. So he realizes that he killed Frankie. So then he just busted open the wall and pulls him out.
Well, lucky for him, the cat came pre-taxidermied.
So he's trying to figure out what to do with the cat. So I guess he decides a good idea would be to cover him in clay.
No, it's not that he decides because he killed the cat. It was more of, like I said, he's not a creative individual, so he can't create. So all he could do is basically cover something in clay.
Yeah.
He can't reproduce it, so he just covers it. And then, voila, masterpiece. Mm-hmm. So...
Right. So he covers the cat in clay, and the next day he goes to the cafe early to show off his dead cat sculpture. He even left the knife inside the cat. Voila! Dead cat.
Yeah. So, well, he goes to, like, during the day. I guess this place is open and only up, like, dusk to night, which makes sense. It's like a pre-nightclub, I guess. And he was trying to get, like, the owner's approval of... Because he's, like, the beret-wearing, like, bohemian-style artist at the time. Mm-hmm. And he was like, look what I did. I created this artwork. Can I show it?
That's what we're getting to.
Yeah. Well, I ruined it, so. Voila!
So he goes to the cafe, and he talks to the owner, and the owner agrees to show his sculpture, and if it sells, to split it with him 50-50. Everyone makes a big deal out of Walter's dead cat.
It really wasn't the owner that was like, let's sell it. It was more of the wife sort of pressured him into selling it. Because I think she felt sorry for him.
Well, she thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Walter is stopped by a woman when his boss tells him to go home.
Because he was going through the entire place going, have you seen my dead cat? Have you seen my cat? Have you seen my sculptor? Like, it was, and then, so he was pointing, everybody, was like, he was pestering people at this point.
So, Walter is stopped by a woman when his boss tells him to go home. She wants to go home with him, but he says no. So she gives him what looks like is a tube of chapstick. He thanks her and goes home.
But, because he didn't go home with her, she freaks out on him. Just loses it. She's an art hag.
Yeah. He is followed by a man. The man knocks on his door, and you find out that he is a cop. The cop saw the exchange with Walter and the woman, and knows Walter was given drugs, and tells Walter he is being arrested. Walter panics and hits him with the pan.
Well, it's like it looks like he was making pancakes. It's a pancake pan.
Yeah, it's like a really thin, griddle pan.
Yeah.
And he doesn't just hit him, with the flat part of it. He hits him with the side of it. So, this dude's head gets, cut in half.
So, maybe at this point you're realizing, I haven't given a kill count at this point. The cat, this guy. Because in 1950, in horror films, you were not allowed to show blood. It was part of the rulings. So... And once again, our statement is if we can't see the killing, it doesn't count.
Right. Gotta love the 1950s. So, you are being very good about making me lose my place.
Good at it.
Huh?
I'm good.
Yeah, you made me lose my place this whole entire freaking time, man. Tell you what.
Well, you always complain that I don't say enough during these things.
Oh, you're saying a lot, making me lose my place.
We're at past drugs, killing the,
Walter panics and hits him with a pan. He hung him up and let his blood drip in a pan.
So this is the bucket of blood.
Yep.
Or as our daughter says, saucepan of blood.
He had to hide his body from his landlady. Walter's boss and his wife go to Walter's apartment and see his new statue.
Okay, so the landlady freaks out because, there's a lot of commotion and stuff. My question is how did he get him above into the ceiling?
I think there was some kind of loft area that he stuck him in.
Okay.
Because, his arm was hanging down. You could see
we never did see the ceiling.
Arm, hanging down.
Mm-hmm. We never did see the ceiling, so I don't know if it was, a loft or just, a rafter.
Yeah, you can't tell.
Yeah, but I'm that was sort of but he did it really quickly, too. It was just screw it!
You don't know if he threw him up in the air and he just happened to stick.
So he's a sticky ball.
I don't know.
Did he leave the goo that when we were kids? Remember the sticky balls when we were kids, in the 90s? My mom hated those things that we would throw them up because we had popcorn ceilings too, so we would chuck them up there. And so we had green goo. Yeah, my mom got pissed. So did it leave red goo?
Ew. Walter's boss and his wife go to Walter's apartment and see his new statue. His boss gives him $50 because there's a man who wants to buy the cat. And tells Walter to start making more of a free form art.
So if you're not part of the art sort of world, freeform is just whatever comes to your mind, whatever you can do.
Right.
It's not
the first thing that comes to your head.
Yeah. So basically, it would be considered abstract in today's standard.
Walter comes to the cafe the next day dressed as a beatnik.
And he has a big old long, like where the starlets would have the big cigar filters with the cigarette filters with the cigarette, and he's like, I'm the best thing ever because
he's walking with a cane and being all dressed up. Alice, a very obnoxious lady at the cafe, she was very rude to Walter and said he had no talent if he could not prove it to her.
Well, she's a model, so models are usually stuck up.
By making something out of clay on the spot. Walter got aggravated and leaves. He follows her to her apartment and apologizes and asks her to sit and model for him. He strangles her and then covers her in clay. Then takes her to show his friends. They say she is breathtaking. They throw a party for him at the yellow door. Walter gets plastered. They ask Walter what he is going to do next. Walter is walking home and comes in contact with an angry guy.
No, it was just a single. He was just a worker who was working probably overtime, and he was just sawing wood because he cut through a lumber yard. And the guy was like, "What are you doing here? Because you're not supposed to be in this area." So that was that whole thing.
Oh, okay. So the guy was sawing wood. He cuts the guy's head off, right?
Yeah.
And covers it in clay.
And you start seeing, at this point, this is where the cinematography really changes of the film. The feeling of it also changes to a very darker, grittier film.
Walter is due to have a show. He asks Carla to marry him. He says he doesn't want to make statues anymore. He wants to marry her. She says she does love him for his work, but does not want to marry him. He asks if she will let him make a statue of her. She says that will make her very happy.
You're missing a really key thing in here.
What's that?
So there was a big show at this point.
This happens before the show.
Okay, but he had a long-time crush on Carla. Mm-hmm. And so this whole turn thing just between...
He actually thinks now that he has a chance with her because he's
now this big artist.
He's level with her now.
But she notices something. It's not the show, but when he brings in his newest sculpture, the model. Mm-hmm. And she...
That's during the show. Oh. That's after this. There you go again. You're skipping ahead. Oh. Oh my God. He asked if she will let him make a statue of her. She says that will make her very happy. They agree they will meet later and go on to the showing. Carla realizes that there was a body inside of the clay. She tells this to Walter. He says he made them immortal. He can do the same thing for her. She takes off running. He runs after her. Carla hides and Walter starts hearing voices. At this point, everyone is chasing after Walter in his head. Even the dead people. are after him. So he runs home, but the voices of the dead are still there. He decides to hide where they will never find him. So he hangs himself. They found him and said, I suppose he would have called this one Hanging Man, his greatest work.
Because he covered himself in clay and then hung himself. Like, I mean, he slapped clay on him and hung himself.
Right.
So the owner knew what was going on because he crashed the cat.
Right. He had dropped it.
Yeah. Completely on accident.
Right.
And then Carla realized it because...
At the show, she had touched the hand of the model and...
It was very...
Inadvertently had rubbed the finger.
Yeah.
I think the clay was just really thin in that area.
And then, realized that it was really her finger. And then... So all of it... And I mean, like, even the party with... The thing with Walter, to take away from this whole thing, is that Walter was mocked the entirety of his life. Mm-hmm. Up to, from him being a busboy, even the party in his honor was a joke.
Right.
They were declaring him the king of this and that, and, and even the head beatnik didn't really want to go.
Yeah.
So, my score is a 3.5 on this movie. How about you?
I'll give it a 3.
The things I liked about it was that, especially after, I think Walter gets, when he from the moment he cuts off the guy's head, when he's chasing Carla, and he's going through the lumberyard, and the guy's, freaking out, and stuff like that, the camera style changes. Mm-hmm. It goes to his side, and it gets a lot darker of a movie. And really, I mean, Dick Miller plays a really good... He's really invested into this film. He is the best actor in this film. I mean, that's why... It's not perfect, but no. I mean, it's a good 1950 subcultural film.
I think for the time, it definitely does a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. And we can see into today's modern cinema. So let's get to the trivia.
There is a ton of trivia for this film. Okay. The set of the film would be reused for Roger Corman's next production, The Little Shop of Horrors, 1960.
Which featured Jack Nicholson for 5 seconds.
The line about how Walter Paisley knows his anatomy is apparently a nod to the Med House of Wax 1953, which used the same line about Vincent Price's character. Of course, a year later, Price became Roger Corman's favorite star. Reportedly, star Dick Miller was unhappy with the impact of the low budget on the film. Miller felt the film had terrible potential to be a classic and liked the script and performances, but felt the lack of funding weakened some of the film's best moments. In particular, Miller cited the conclusion in the film, saying it suffered due to little time or money for makeup effects. When preview audiences saw Maxwell arrive in a tuxedo and sandals, it caused them to chuckle because it seemed so appropriate to the character. However, it was actually because Julian Burton had swollen feet due to wearing the sandals constantly and had no choice.
Although it is very befitting of the character.
At the time of its original release, there was a promotion in the newspaper Movie section advertised that made the offer: if you bring in a bucket of blood to your to your local theater's management or ticket booth, you will be given one free admission. That's crazy.
That is.
Julian Burton is reported to have actually written the entire life. The entire life is a bum poem himself, taking care to make the poem intimate and yet parody beatnik art at the same time. Though Dick Miller is a recognizable veteran actor who's appeared in well over 100 movies, A Bucket of Blood is one of the only 3 in which he had a starring role. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
And I think he's a really good actor, so...
Anthony Carbone spends the entire film imping and walking with a cane, this being a Roger Corman film. One might think Corman injured himself, but he was perfectly healthy. He limped and walked with the cane to bring more interesting element to the character. The entire film was shot in 5 days. That's crazy. The working title of the film was The Living Dead.
If that was the actual name of the film, I would not be interested in it.
That was the working title of the film, The Living Dead.
I think of The Living Dead, I think of like zombies and...
The film's origin came about when American International Pictures approached Roger Corman to direct a horror film for them, but only allotted a small budget and an extremely limited schedule. Corman took the challenge, but wasn't interested in directed a traditional horror film, so he and screenwriter Charles B. Griffith came up with the concept of creating a black comedy instead. In 2009, a musical production of Bucket of Blood was produced by Chicago's Annoyance Theater. Wouldn't you want to see that?
Yeah.
Roger Corman and Charles B. Griffith developed the idea and basic outline of the film in 1 day. Wow. The film's original poster art was a series of comic strips and hinted at the macabre story of the film. In reference to the film, Dick Miller played 4 other characters named Walter Paisley in Hollywood Boulevard, The Howling, Twilight Zone, the movie, and Chopping Mall. I hate to say we've seen all those.
Alright, so that concludes A Bucket of Blood.
Or A Saucepan of Blood, or working title The Living Dead, which is weird saying that because it doesn't seem right.
No. Any conclusions on it?
I don't know. This is one of our traditional films that we watch at least once a year, and
I think this one could be found on Internet Archive, to be honest.
Probably.
Which is a great resource, which we're not sponsored for, and they take donations, so they have a lot of great older films. InternetArchive.com.
This is another one of those that can be found on Tubby TV. So,
and if you want a hard copy, there are several. I think we have maybe 3 different. I say 3 different copies. The same film on 3 different compilations. We bought the movie by itself.
Yeah.
And then we
have it in a disc we have it in a box set with several other movies. Mm-hmm. And we have it in a on digital too, so you can find it. It's out there. It's not one of those that's awfully hard to find, but you can also watch it on Tubby TV, which is totally free, so you really have no excuse. But
we do highly recommend this film. This is
definitely one of those that, like I said, we watch at least once a year, so it's in the lineup of one of those that, we would definitely recommend, and especially if you're one of those that really love those classics and you really do enjoy those actors that you see in multiple films, such as Walter Paisley, you definitely want to check this one out.
Yeah, Dick Miller. And like you said,
Dick Miller, right?
This is one of 3.
Yeah, that he was the main actor.
Yeah, and he was not that long ago within our region. We just could not go.
Right.
I really wish we could have, because he was like the main reason why I even wanted to go.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I think it's Dick Miller.
Yeah.
And you're like, who is that? I'm like, the guy from Bucket of Blood. You're like, oh.
I'm horrible with names. Don't ask me names. I'm not good with names.
So
I'm the worst with names.
We do recommend this one, and I think that's the end of this episode. Our next one is Blood of Castle Dracula.
Yep, we had a little bit of a change to the schedule, so.
Yes. So we'll see you later.
Scare you later.
Bye.